Let's now turn to a special interview lined up today on US Election Watch. Our guest is an Indian-American lawmaker who was elected to Congress in 2016 and is now in his fourth term. Joining us is Democratic Representative Raja Krishnamoorthi. Congressman Krishnamoorthi, thank you very much for joining us here on NDTV. Congressman Krishnamoorthi, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as you know, is in the US right now. He attended the Quad Summit over the weekend. The Quad Alliance includes, of course, India, Japan, Australia, the United States, which is a counterbalance to China. Now, President Joe Biden hosted his final Quad meeting this weekend, but Biden's not going to be around much longer. He's not going to be president much longer. It's really an uncertain time here in the US. What happens to the Quad after November the 5th?
I think that the Quad is going to last well beyond November. I think it's been embraced by presidents of both parties, whether it was Obama or Trump or Biden. And I think that the relationships between the U.S. and India, as well as Australia and Japan, transcend politics at this point. So I think that this gathering is going to continue for many years to come.
Is there anything that worries you if we have Trump in the mix, worries you with regards to the Quad and India?
No, I think that, Donald Trump will continue to be a friend of India, although I'm very certain that Kamala Harris will be the next president, in which case we'll have our first Indian American president of the United States. And of course, she will continue to maintain and strengthen relations between the world's oldest and the world's largest democracies in the U.S. and in India.
All right, Congressman Krishnamoorthi, let's move to another question that's really important for our Indian audiences. India has a wealth of young talent, many of whom come to the United States to study, as you know. Now You've recently said that the U.S. really needs a shake-up as far as fixing its legal immigration system goes. You said that it's totally messed up. Firstly, what needs to change? And if Kamala Harris is president, why will she bring about that change given that the Biden administration had nearly 4 years to fix these problems?
Well, unfortunately, she didn't have, and the president did not have, a Congress that was amenable to these changes. Unfortunately, for instance, the U.S. House is governed by Republicans, and they will not allow a single legal immigration bill to come to the floor. And so, we have to make sure that our legal immigration system remains strong. I believe it's our number one killer competitive advantage relative to other countries. That's what brought my own parents and my own family from India to the United States. And I feel confident that if Kamala Harris becomes president and we have a Democratic Congress, that we will get immigration, a legal immigration fix done. And that will mean more prosperity for the U.S. and the world.
What kind of fixes are you referring to? Can you give us a few examples and specifics?
Sure. I mean, first of all, you may know this already, but we have numerous people in queue who were H-1B visa holders who have not matriculated into green card status. And so I think there are roughly 1 million people who have an H-1B who are waiting decades to become a green card holder. In fact, if you come from India today as an H-1B visa holder, it will take you more than 100 years to become a green card holder, which is completely unacceptable, as you know. And so one of the fixes is my own bill to abolish the quota, the cap on the number of green cards that can be issued by country to H-1B visa holders. If we were to abolish the cap and award green cards on a first-come, first-served basis, we could effectively deal with this queue, especially from countries like India, and then grant these people some stability to start businesses, to employ Americans, to invest their capital in America and the American economy.
Okay, got it, and good to know. Now, Congressman Krishnamoorthi, you are on a very important committee that has a very long name, so I'm not going to get into it. But suffice to tell our viewers that it's a committee that focuses on some sticky issues dealing with economic and security competition in the U.S. vis-a-vis the Chinese Communist Party. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping has said that the Chinese military needs to be ready to take Taiwan by 2027. That's 3 years from now. Now, if Kamala Harris is in the White House, what will she need to do to make sure that China does not declare war on Taiwan?
Well, first of all, you're right about the long name of the committee. It matches my own long name. And as a fellow Desi and Indian American, I think a lot of your viewers will understand that. With regard to Kamala Harris, I think what she needs to do is to continue doing what the Biden administration has done, which is continue to equip Taiwan with what it needs to deter conflict, to deter an invasion, to discourage the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, from initiating a coercive reunification with Taiwan. And so that's what I would strongly suggest and hope will continue to occur during a Kamala Harris administration.
All right, so let's talk about another flashpoint on our planet right now, potential, or one that's ongoing. In recent days, the situation in the Middle East has gotten even more alarming. There are renewed worries of a wider regional war. When Kamala Harris privately met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during his visit to the US in July, she put pressure on Netanyahu to end the war. Things, though, have gotten worse since then. Pager attacks, massive Israeli airstrikes on Hezbollah, as you know. Should Harris become president, would it be time, really, for her to pull back those billions of dollars in military funding for Israel? Many have been calling for that, and we haven't seen it.
I think our partnership with Israel is rock solid, and it's important that we stand with our democratic allies in the Middle East, including Israel, against any aggression. I think that the most important thing that we need to do right now is come to a ceasefire deal that would involve the release of hostages and massive humanitarian aid into Gaza Strip. I think this is essential, and I think we need to get parties in the region to exert their leverage to make that happen. And I think Kamala Harris will continue to do that. I think President Biden, in his remaining months in office, will also continue to do that. It's my hope that we could come to a ceasefire deal before President Biden leaves office. I think that would be a welcome development and provide some space for the parties to pursue what I believe is the ultimate solution, which is a two-state solution to separate and give the Israeli and Palestinian people a chance at a more durable peace long term.
Congressman Krishnamoorthi, personally, how do you feel about how things have unfolded? It's taking so very long. Give us a sense of what's going on behind the scenes. Why are things taking so long, and how do you feel about it? Is it a frustrating, long process?
It is. I think that unfortunately what we see right now is a situation where the incentives for getting to a quick agreement are not there on both sides. And we need to create the incentives to get to a quicker agreement. And that will require, obviously, friends, partners, and allies of Israel to continue to urge it to get to yes. But the same is true of Hamas. And unfortunately, Hamas has taken a position where, basically they don't want to be accountable for what happened on October 7th, even though we know that their attack on October 7th on Israel was completely barbaric and unacceptable. And I just don't see a situation where their participation could possibly be reasonable or expected in the long term in Gaza, in its governance.
We have a few minutes left, so let's go back to China for a bit. Now, the Biden administration has told TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, it needs to find a non-Chinese owner, or TikTok could potentially be banned come January 19th, around the time the next president is sworn in. Now, 170 million Americans use TikTok. I was talking to a few TikTokers just a few days ago. Some say that they don't see why Joe Biden or Kamala Harris needs to be worrying about cat videos on TikTok. What do you have to say to those voters?
Well, I hope TikTok survives as a platform. But what we have said as a Congress is that we don't want TikTok to be controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. That is really the underlying issue. And I think that if the CCP were to get ByteDance, TikTok's owner, to divest TikTok, I think that there'd be many willing buyers, and TikTok could continue to survive as a platform and thrive in the United States. That is hopefully what's going to happen.
All right, in 2020, TikTok users in India really bid goodbye to the app following a military clash along the India and the China border. The Indian government said that the Chinese apps, they posed a threat to India's sovereignty and security. India was very swift in making its decision. If this is such a huge problem here in the United States, why doesn't the US just take a leaf out of India's playbook?
Well, I think that there would be challenges, and rightfully so, under the First Amendment for a complete ban of the app. And indeed, those challenges have been made in certain states that engage in such a ban. Instead, what we have proposed and what we got signed into law was a divestment of TikTok by ByteDance, which makes a lot of sense. It's a reasonable step forward, and I hope it's what's going to happen as well.
Thanks very much indeed. That's Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi joining us here this morning on NDTV.